Now let's talk about the roadie journey. You come from a different part of the country that's not traditionally the AFL heartland. The upbringing and then the investment in the New South Wales. What where did the dream start to get into calling and why the infatuation with the game of AFL?
Well, we are at New South Wales. We say that's southern New South Wales, so we're well and truly below the Barassi line,
Yep.
which we even though for some reason they try to claim it as being the Murray River, and there's a big monument at Corowa indicating it, but the Barassi line is actually the Murrumbidgee River,
Hmm.
so it's Wagga.
Yep.
So that's why you see so many wonderful rugby league players, so many wonderful footballers, so many wonderful cricketers coming out of Wagga.
Hmm.
Whereas if you come south of that, it's a lot more football. So I certainly grew up with the local footy club and the local footy competition. Um, the town I'm from is Daysdale. We had our little club, a population of around about 50 people
Oh
living in
wow.
the town. That's basically the maximum it's been. The highest the primary school got to when I was there was 26
Oh wow.
students.
Half the population of the area.
Yeah, oh, well, a few coming in off the
Yeah, of course.
farms and that sort of thing. But yeah, so definitely a small community, small schools, and the footy club is just the hub of the community.
Hmm.
It's probably the same, your town a little bit bigger,
Hmm.
but the same thing. Everyone does what they do during the week, and you congregate at the footy on the weekend. Cricket in summer, cricket and tennis in summer, footy and netball in winter, and that's just what you do. It's the one chance to get together, and I fell in love with the game at an early age. Um, a lot of people will talk about how they used to see me running up and down, well, not the main road, but the street out the front, which maybe got a car every 2 hours if it was lucky. Kicking the footy around and playing pretend games and commentating those games. I very quickly learned that my football ability was, how do you word it best? Couldn't get a kick in a fuse box. Um, but I like to think that I wasn't bad at talking about it. So that's where the dream came, and um, I think it was 1997. I'd seen the previous couple of years the single cameraman on the roof of the afternoon tea shed filming the local grand final just so he could put it out on video.
Yep.
So I put my hand up and said, you know, I'll come and call this game. And yeah, the first one was certainly memorable. A lot of people have told the story about how it was about 5 minutes before three-quarter time, and the scores were, I think there was about a goal in it, something like that, and there was about 5,000 people around the ground watching, and then all of a sudden they disappeared. And I was wondering what was going on. I turned around and looked behind me, and well, put it this way: the ace of spades is not as black as that sky was. And I just
Wow.
thought, well, what's going to go on here? We go just as the siren went for three-quarter time. The Jerilderie Football Club, famous for Billy Brownless, of
Hmm.
course, um, they kicked a goal to level the score, and the sky just went whack. And we've got rain coming down at a massive volume, so much so that it was pushing me on a deck chair towards the edge of the roof, the volume of water coming across the roof. I couldn't tell you exactly how much we had, but you can sort of get the
Truckload.
picture. I had an umbrella sitting here like this, and the hailstones were dong, 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 dong on the back of the head through the umbrella. The poor bugger boundary umpire is standing at centre half forward, cradling the ball like this, trying to protect himself. I'm yelling and screaming and carrying on about all this. Dropped to, I think what was the word? It's belting down. It's absolutely belting down here. Uh, get the ball back to the centre so the game can start again. Yes, and I thought my whole career could have been over on that first day with the old F-bomb. But yeah, amazingly, the ground went from perfectly dry, lovely surface for footy. They played the last quarter under about 4 to 6 inches of water. The entire ground surface.
Did they have a crowd watching at the time?
Yeah, well, the crowd disappeared. My grandma, who was just sitting in her car over on the outer wing, was surprised that the passenger side door opened and one of the Jerilderie players got in.
So one of the players who was playing
One of the
in the
players
game
got in Grandma's car. Yeah, he wasn't having a bar standing out in that. So they called 3/4 time. They played the last quarter in water everywhere.
Yep.
Neither team scored. Remember, the scores are level.
Yep.
Neither team scored, and a Waganya player managed to get the ball from a boundary throw in 50 metres out, threw it on his boot, and it went through post high for the only score of the last quarter as the siren went.
My goodness gracious. Yeah.
And to be honest, if he's watching Nace Knuckles Low,
Yeah.
Cheerio, mate. You gave me a great thing to call, and he's been dining out on that rightly ever since.
Now,
27 years ago.
Would I be fair to say you've called hundreds and thousands of games of footy? Would you have had anything as memorable as that? The game that's been decided off the last kick of the game off a last quarter like that?
It's certainly the first story that comes to my mind.
Yep.
Amazingly, the second one is the second game I ever did, which was the following year's grand final in 1998, when the same two teams played each other again, Waganya and Jerilderie. Waganya was 59 points in front, 7 minutes into the third quarter, and you know who the king of commentators was at that time, Bruce and Dennis aside.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the great Rex Hunt.
Yep, of course, in the late 90s.
So I've come out with the shrill old "It's over."
Yep. The fat lady singing.
The fat lady is singing. Then Jerilderie started kicking goals, didn't they? And they got back to, I think, within about 27 points at 3/4 time. And then they kicked 9 goals in the last quarter, and Jerilderie won that game by 14 points from 59 down in the third quarter. My cousin, who was known for being a bit sarcastic, as Jerilderie hit the front, he said they've taken the fat lady out the back and kicked the out of her. I don't think either of us were able to call the next minute. We were rolling around on the roof. So,
surprised you didn't roll off the roof itself.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they're the first two games. So you could pretty fairly say I was hooked after that.
It is interesting you say that. From my calling background, the very first two grand finals that I called was Romsey and the Sunbury Kangaroos across 11 and 12, and they had memorable games. And I think of your first game, being decided with a kick virtually on the siren, your first grand final in your first game. My second grand final was decided where the team that hadn't won a premiership in its history, hadn't been in front all day. They weren't in front when the final siren sounded, but they were as the ball sailed through for a goal when the captain coach kicked that. And
oh wow!
And so I think of your first two games, two grand finals, and I think of mine featuring the same teams. And the first grand final I called went to 2 points, and the second grand final went to a similar margin. And they're two epics. And I would be fair, just hesitant to say that from our perspective, we've called a lot of footy, a lot of grand finals, etc. But if you put those two first grand finals together for both of us, I don't think there'd be too many that would be better than that.
They're certainly right at the top. Now, I've called a grand final in 2009 that went to extra time.
Oh.
That was in Sydney, UTS and Manly. One of our previous bosses with with the VFL call last year. Lockie Buzzard was actually coach of UTS that day, so he reminds me of that one all the time when we speak. But yeah, and another one in Sydney where the undefeated red hot premiership favourites kicked 5 goals, 18, and lost to their arch rivals 7-6 in the grand final. 2 points. 5-18 to 7-8 or something like that. Anyway, they lost by 2 points, having been undefeated in driving rain. It was just crazy. But yeah, those ones certainly don't bring the memories as much. I've been lucky enough to call back. About 20 years later, I got the old video of Daysdale's 1994 premiership, which was our centenary year. It was the year after we'd won the Wooden Spoon with 1.5 wins, and we won the last 9 games of the year to win the flag. I was able to go back and recall that one for our 20-year premiership reunion a decade ago. So that one's very memorable for me, of course, and a couple of others where I've been lucky enough to call my team getting over the line. Daysdale is now known as Corrine Daysdale Hopefield Burrager United. So there's the way football has developed in the country.
Of course.
And I was lucky enough to call them winning a premiership in 2007. I called my club in Sydney, the Norwest Jets, winning a couple of flags in 05 and 06. And then at the other end of the scale, I've been lucky enough, not as lucky as you, of course, who've made it to the AFL, but I've called a few pre-season games and got to call some amazing players there as well. So it's been a terrific ride, but there is still another step that I'm desperate to be able to follow you and take.